Imagine this. Two people start the year with the exact same goal: get fit. One goes to the gym every day for a week, then slowly falls off. The other just commits to putting on their running shoes every morning. A year later, one is back to square one. The other has completely transformed. Why? The answer is habits. Today, we're diving deep into Atomic Habits by James Clear, a book that doesn't just talk about habits, but actually shows you how tiny changes, compounded over time, can reshape your entire life. This isn't about motivation speeches. It's about practical steps, real-life stories, and a system you can actually follow. So, if you've ever struggled to stay consistent, felt guilty about breaking promises to yourself, or wondered why your goals never seem to stick with me. Because by the end of this video, you'll see habits in a completely different way. 1. The truth about habits. Let's start with the basics. James Clear says, "You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." Think about that. Most of us set big goals. Lose 20 pounds, earn more money, learn a language. But goals don't achieve themselves. Systems do. And habits are the building blocks of those systems. Here's a powerful analogy. Habits are like compound interest for self-improvement. Just as money multiplies when invested, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. Small, seemingly insignificant choices, eating one cookie, doing one push-up, reading one page, don't look like much in the moment. But stack them up over months and years, that's transformation. So here's the first mindset shift. Habits matter more than goals. 2. The 1% rule. There's a story in the book about the British cycling team. For decades, they were terrible. Then a new coach came along, Dave Brailsford, who introduced the idea of the aggregation of marginal gains. Instead of focusing on one massive improvement, they focused on tiny 1% changes. Better bike seats, better nutrition, even things like improving the pillows they slept on. The result? They went from being nobodies to dominating the Olympics and the Tour de France. The lesson is simple. If you get 1% better every day, you'll be 37 times better after a year. But if you get 1% worse, you spiral downward just as fast. So ask yourself, what's one small change you can make today? Not tomorrow, not next month, today. 3. Identity-based habits. Here's the part most people miss. True behavior change isn't about what you want to achieve. It's about who you want to become. Let me explain. Imagine two people trying to quit smoking. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." The second person says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." See the difference? One is still tied to the identity of a smoker, just resisting it. The other has already shifted their identity. This is the secret sauce of habits. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. When you run, you're voting for, "I'm an athlete." When you write, you're voting for, "I'm a writer." It's not about being perfect. You don't need 100% of the votes. You just need a majority. So the real question isn't, what goal do I want? It's, who do I want to be? That's the foundation. Habits matter more than goals. Small improvements compound, and identity drives behavior. But how do you actually build good habits and break bad ones? That's where James Clear introduces the 4 laws of behavior change. So, we're going to break them down one by one, with real-life examples and practical steps you can use starting today. So if you're ready to learn how to make good habits obvious and attractive, let's dive in. How do you actually form a habit in real life? James Clear gives us a framework called the 4 Laws of Behavior Change, a simple set of rules that make habits stick. Law 1. Make it obvious. Most people think they lack motivation. In reality, they lack clarity. Here's what I mean. If you say, "I'll work out more," what does that even mean? Once a week? In the morning? At the gym? At home? Without clarity, your brain has nothing obvious to grab onto. Instead, James Clear suggests using something called an implementation intention. It's basically a plan that spells out exactly when and where you'll do a habit. The formula is simple. I will behavior at time in location. Example, I will meditate for 2 minutes at 7 a.m. in my bedroom. I will write 1 paragraph at 8 p.m. at my desk. This removes the vagueness. Your brain doesn't have to guess. Habit stacking, the secret weapon. There's another trick. Habit stacking. This is where you link a new habit to an old one. The formula looks like this. After I, current habit, I will, new habit. Examples. After I brush my teeth, I will floss 1 tooth. After I pour my morning coffee, I will write down 1 thing I'm grateful for. After I take off my shoes, I will immediately change into workout clothes. The power of habit stacking is that it uses your existing routines as anchors. You don't start from zero. You attach new habits onto habits you already do automatically. Environment design. Change your cues. Now, here's the big one. Your environment. We often think willpower drives habits. But in truth, cues in your environment control your behavior far more than motivation does. Think about it. Why do you snack so often? Because the chips are sitting on the counter. Why do you spend hours on your phone? Because it's right next to you on the bed. The solution? Make good cues obvious and bad cues invisible. Want to eat healthier? Put fruit on the counter and hide junk food in the cupboard. Want to practice guitar? Keep it in the middle of the living room, not tucked in a closet. Want to stop scrolling? Leave your phone in another room when you work. Small environmental tweaks shape behavior more than self-control ever will. So here's the test. Look around your room right now. Does your environment pull you toward good habits or bad ones? Law 2. Make it attractive. Now, even if a habit is obvious, you won't stick to it if it feels boring or painful. That's where the second law comes in. Make it attractive. Here's something fascinating. Our brains are wired for dopamine. And dopamine isn't just released when we get a reward, it spikes in anticipation of the reward. That means the craving is what drives us. So, how do you use this to your advantage? Temptation bundling. James Clear suggests a method called temptation bundling. It's where you pair something you want to do with something you need to do. Examples. Only watch Netflix while you're on the treadmill. Only drink your favorite coffee while working on your side project. Only listen to podcasts you love while doing household chores. This transforms a habit from a chore into something you actually look forward to. The role of community. Here's another trick. We imitate the habits of people around us. Think about it. If all your friends smoke, you'll probably smoke. If your coworkers hit the gym, you'll feel pulled to join them. If your family eats fast food, it's tough to resist. That's why one of the most effective ways to build habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the norm. Want to read more? Join a book club. Want to start running? Find a running group. Want to be more disciplined? Spend time with people who already live that way. Humans are wired for belonging. And when good habits become the price of admission to a group you admire, sticking to them becomes way easier. There's a story about how people didn't brush their teeth consistently in the US until toothpaste companies added mint flavoring. The foam in mint didn't actually clean teeth better. It just made brushing feel good and refreshing. That's the second law in action. They made the habit attractive. So ask yourself, how can I make my desired habit feel rewarding in the moment, not just later? So far, we've learned how to make habits obvious and attractive. But even with the best intentions, most of us still fall into the same trap. We overcomplicate things. We think change has to be hard, painful, or dramatic. But the truth, the easier a habit is, the more likely you are to stick with it. That's where the third law comes in. Make it easy. Law 3. Make it easy. When people fail at building habits, It's often because they're trying to do too much too soon. Think about New Year's resolutions. Someone says, "This year I'll get in shape," and they go to the gym for 2 hours on day 1. By day 3, they're exhausted, sore, and unmotivated. Within weeks, they quit. Why? Because the barrier was too high. James Clear reminds us, habits are not about intensity, they're about consistency. Reduce friction. Here's a simple truth. The more friction there is, the less likely you'll do the habit. Want to practice guitar? Keep it out, tuned, and ready, not locked in a case. Want to eat healthier? Pre-cut fruits and veggies so they're ready to grab. Want to exercise? Lay out your workout clothes the night before. On the flip side, if you want to break a bad habit, increase friction. Hide the TV remote in a drawer. Delete social media apps from your phone. Put junk food in the back of the pantry. Friction can either be your enemy or your ally. The key is to design it intentionally. The 2-minute rule. Now, here's one of the most practical hacks in the book. The 2-minute rule. It says, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Sounds silly, right? But here's why it works. Instead of saying, "I'll read a book every night," say, "I'll read 1 page." Instead of, "I'll run 5 miles," say, "I'll put on my running shoes." Instead of, "I'll meditate daily," say, "I'll sit quietly for 2 minutes." Why does this matter? Because the hardest part of any habit is starting. Once you're in motion, it's much easier to keep going. Think of it like this. Standardize before you optimize. First, make the habit consistent. Then, worry about scaling it up. Automation. The ultimate hack. If you really want to make habits stick, automate them. Remove choice altogether. Set up automatic savings transfers to build wealth. Use apps that track your workouts so you don't have to remember. Sign up for a healthy meal delivery service if cooking feels overwhelming. When a habit is automated, it doesn't rely on willpower. It just happens. Japanese train system. Here's a story from the book. In Japan, train conductors use a system called pointing and calling. They literally point at signals, call out their status, and confirm them. It seems small, but this reduced mistakes by nearly 85%, just by making the process easier and more automatic. That's the third law in action. Habits that are simple and frictionless are habits that last. Law 4. Make it satisfying. Here's the last piece of the puzzle. Even if a habit is obvious, attractive, and easy, you won't stick with it if it doesn't feel good. Our brains are wired for immediate rewards. That's why bad habits are so hard to break. They give you instant satisfaction. Junk food tastes great now. Scrolling TikTok feels fun now. Smoking relaxes you now. Good habits, on the other hand, usually have delayed rewards. Exercising today won't give you abs tomorrow. Saving money today won't make you rich next week. So the key is to make good habits satisfying in the moment. Use reinforcement reward yourself instantly after completing a habit. After a workout, mark a big check on your calendar. After finishing a study session, allow yourself a small treat. After saving money, watch your balance grow on an app. The trick is to give your brain something to celebrate immediately. Habit tracking. One of the simplest ways to make habits satisfying is tracking them. Why does this work? Because humans love progress. When you check off a box, cross out a day, or watch a streak grow, it feels rewarding. Example: Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian, used a calendar system called Don't Break the Chain. Every day he wrote jokes. He marked an X on the calendar. The chain of X's became motivating because he didn't want to break it. You can do the same with habits. Track them on paper, on an app, or even with sticky notes on a wall. Accountability. Here's another way to add satisfaction. Make it social. If you commit to working out with a friend, skipping feels embarrassing. If you join a challenge group online, People will notice if you disappear. That's called an accountability partner. And trust me, we all work harder when someone's watching. Instant gratification of good habits. Here's a simple example. Imagine you're saving money. Instead of just transferring it into an invisible account, what if you physically put cash into a clear jar? Every time you drop bills in, you see your progress grow. That's the fourth law. You make it satisfying. All right, we've gone through the 4 laws of behavior change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. That's the core system James Clear lays out in Atomic Habits. But what about the next level? What about the times when you fall off track? When you struggle to break bad habits? Or when you're aiming for mastery instead of just getting started? That's what this final part is about. Let's dig into the advanced strategies. Breaking bad habits, the inverse of the 4 laws. Bad habits stick because they're obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. To break them, you flip the system. Make it invisible. Remove cues that trigger the habit. If you waste time on your phone, keep it in another room. Make it unattractive. Reframe your mindset. Instead of seeing smoking as relaxing, remind yourself it's destroying your lungs. Make it difficult. Add friction. If you binge watch TV, unplug it after use. So turning it on takes effort. Make it unsatisfying. Use accountability. Tell a friend you'll pay them money every time you skip a workout. Breaking habits isn't about willpower. It's about making the bad ones harder to do. The role of family and culture. Here's something people underestimate. Your environment isn't just physical, it's social. We tend to copy the habits of 3 groups. 1. The close, family and friends. 2. The many, our culture, community, peers. 3. The powerful, people we admire. That's why it's so important to surround yourself with people who live the way you want to live. If you want to get fit, but your friends order pizza every night, you'll struggle. If you want to read more, but everyone around you scrolls TikTok, you'll get sucked in. So ask yourself, who do I spend time with? Are they pulling me toward the person I want to be or away from it? Advanced tactics. The Goldilocks rule. Now, let's talk about mastery. Once you've built a habit, how do you stay motivated long-term? Enter the Goldilocks rule. Humans love challenges that are not too hard, not too easy, but just right. If something is too easy, you get bored. If it's too hard, you get discouraged. But if it's just beyond your current ability, it feels exciting. Think of a video game. Each level is just hard enough to be engaging, but not impossible. That's why you keep playing. Habits work the same way. If you're lifting weights, gradually increase them. If you're learning a language, move from easy phrases to small conversations. Keep yourself in that sweet spot of challenge. The real secret. Identity reinforcement. Remember back in part 1, we talked about identity. This is where it comes full circle. Habits aren't about achieving goals. They're about becoming the kind of person who naturally lives the life you want. The goal isn't to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. The goal isn't to write a book. The goal is to become a writer. The goal isn't to save money. The goal is to become someone who's financially responsible. When you see habits as part of your identity, they stick. Because you're no longer forcing yourself to act. You're just being yourself. Falling off track. Now, let's be real. You're not going to be perfect. You will miss workouts, eat junk food, skip study sessions. And that's okay. Because the truth is, you don't need to be perfect. James Clear says, missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. The rule is simple. Never miss twice. If you slip today, get back on track tomorrow. Don't let one bad day spiral into a bad week. Small habits, big legacy. Let me end with this. Your life today is essentially the sum of your habits. What you repeatedly do, day in, day out, determines who you are, what you achieve, and the future you create. Good habits compound. Bad habits compound. You're either building toward the person you want to be or drifting away from them. So instead of waiting for some big moment, start small. One push-up, one page, one sentence, one vote for the person you want to become. Because over time, those small votes add up to a completely different life. Hit like, hit subscribe, and let's win this game of life together. So here's the question. What's one tiny habit you can start today? Something so small, it almost feels silly. Write it down, do it once, and let that be the start of a new identity. If this breakdown of atomic habits helped you, don't just watch and move on, apply it. And if you want me to cover other books like this in detail, drop a comment with the title. Remember, habits shape identity. Identity shapes destiny. And you have the power to start shaping yours today.